Reborn in 1982. I had been a bachelor my entire life. Only because in my previous life, while guarding the autumn harvest, I was crippled by a black bear. I rejected the girl I loved most and hid in the mountains for decades. Before dying, I thought, if only I could start over. Unexpectedly, heaven really gave me a second chance. With red eyes, I looked at the young face in the mirror. In this life, I will marry her and personally settle that grudge. When I opened my eyes, what I saw was the pine wood rafters on the ceiling and yellowed old newspapers on the mud walls. The back of my head ached sharply. I touched it. Good heavens, using the edge of the Kong as a pillow. How could it not hurt? Wait, I can move? I suddenly sat up with a jolt, like a corpse rising from the dead. I reached out and pinched my thigh. Hiss, it hurts. It really hurts. On the wall hung a calendar. July 28th, 1982, the 8th day of the 6th lunar month. Reborn. Truly reborn. In my previous life, I was a cripple. Because of a bear, my leg was ruined, and for the rest of my life, I stayed in the mountains, living in a dugout, alone for decades. I couldn't care for my parents. I didn't dare marry the girl I loved, and I lived as a stubborn old man. Now this leg is young, strong, and rock hard. That's enough. A golden finger? It doesn't matter if I have one or not. Being able to start over once is the greatest golden finger. I put on my pants and vest, slipped on cloth shoes, and walked to the door. In the yard, Mom was scrubbing clothes. In her 40s, the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes were already deep. My nose tingled, and my eyes turned red. Mom looked up and saw me, startled. What's wrong, Air? Is the sound of me washing clothes too loud? No, I slept well. Then why are your eyes red? At night, guarding the harvest, there are many mosquitoes. I pointed at the rifle by the door. Where did this gun come from? Your uncle Lee sent it over. He said he saw a black bear near Nandati and was afraid our old hanging gun wouldn't be enough. A Type 38 rifle. An old companion that accompanied me for most of my previous life. I picked it up, pulled the bolt, shouldered it, and aimed at the crabapple tree in the yard. The feel was still there, even steadier. Mom, where did they see the bear? Mom suddenly became nervous. Air, I'm telling you, even if you see it, don't provoke it. Fire 2 shots into the air to scare it off. That's enough. If something happens to you, what will Mom do? I know, Mom. I answered with my mouth, but my hands didn't stop. This bear and I were old acquaintances in my previous life. That year, while guarding the harvest, Zhang Erbao, greedy for bear gall and bear paws, sneaked up and fired a shot, only hitting its rear. The bear went mad, chasing him and charging straight to my shack. I fired several shots but didn't kill it. The beast pounced, grabbed the gun barrel, and bit my leg into 3 pieces. In this life, let's settle our account differently. I rummaged through the west storage shed for a while and pulled out a big thing from under a basket. A butcher knife. The blade was nearly 30 centimeters long, with a thick spine and a pointed tip, slender like a short sword. The handle was an iron cylinder, usable as a short knife or fitted with a long pole to become a spear. It was used for slaughtering pigs in northeast rural areas. Every household had one. I scooped a bowl of water, sat down in front of the whetstone, splashed water, pressed the knife, and sharpened it stroke by stroke. Just as I was getting into it, Mom came back from the back garden carrying a vegetable basket. Air, why are you sharpening that butcher knife? For self-defense. Didn't you say there's a bear? Better to be prepared, then you can rest easy. Mom stared at me for a long time. Why are you so talkative today, kid? Are you hiding something? Damn, I slipped up. In my previous life, I was a man of few words. I quickly covered up. Someone gave me a gun, so I'm happy. What's there to be happy about getting a gun? Mom, think about it. This gun hung in Uncle Lee's house for so many years, and with all his affairs, would he think to send it over on his own? Someone must have asked him to make this trip. Mom slapped her thigh. My girl? It must be Mingxin, that girl. Li Mingxin. Old Master Li's granddaughter, my Uncle Li's youngest daughter. The Li family had 2 sons and 1 daughter. Both sons had gone to the city, leaving only the youngest daughter by their side. Old Master Li had long declared that this granddaughter would not marry out. They would take in a son-in-law. This girl was famous in the surrounding villages as a good girl, and she was the village belle. We grew up together, even shared a bed. In my past life, after I injured my leg, she was the person I least dared to face. Mom crouched beside me, peering outside the yard like she was gathering intel, and lowered her voice. Air, tell Mom the truth. Do you really like your Mingxin sister or not? I laughed. What? Mom, you want her as your daughter-in-law? She smacked the back of my head. Even if I wanted, what's the use if you don't measure up? This matter, let it take its course. Mom's eyes lit up immediately. She jabbed me in the back with her hand. I knew you were quiet, but had plenty of tricks up your sleeve. You put in some effort. Once your Mingxin sister agrees, our family will go invite the matchmaker. I lowered my head and kept sharpening the knife. Inside, something was pushing to get out. In my past life, I kept those feelings bottled up for a lifetime. This life, I don't want to keep them bottled up anymore. After sharpening the knife, I rummaged in the west storage room and found a wooden pole as thick as an egg, about 1.5 meters long, heavy in my hand. It was a tool handle that Big Brother had someone make at the forestry center. I slipped the round sleeve of the knife over it, gripped the pole, and slammed it hard on the ground. Once, twice, over 20 times. The wood gradually bit into the iron sleeve, and wood shavings were rubbed off at the mouth of the sleeve. I trimmed it with a sickle and cut a few shallow grooves in the middle and at the end of the pole for grip. A spear. It was a tool I often used when alone in the mountains in my past life. Better than a gun. When encountering wild animals at close range, it could be a big help. If a bear charges and your gun goes off but doesn't hit a vital spot, you're left with a useless stick. A spear is different. Once you hold it, it's your second life. I found the nails and hammer. Aiming at the small hole at the end of the round sleeve, I placed the nail tip against the wood and brought the hammer down. Clang. The nail went through the iron hole and into the wooden pole. That sound was like nailing the coffin lid shut on the messy accounts of my past life. This life, I'll live differently. At night, when guarding the crops, if the bear comes, you come. I'll be waiting for you. Outside the yard, the setting sun was sinking. Mom was busy in the kitchen, and the aroma of eggplant stewed with potatoes drifted out. Dad and Big Brother would be off work soon, taking the forestry commuter train and arriving home at 4:30. I stood in the yard leaning on the spear, looking at the cooking smoke rising from the roof. It's really good to have a second chance. Finally, I took a nail and drove it through the hole at the end of the round sleeve into the wooden pole. With that, a spear converted from a knife was complete. It felt like it was about 3:30 now. Feng Guolong had nothing to do for the moment, so he began to plan the night's crop guarding. He needed to think it over carefully. After all, that was the only bear he had hunted in his past life. It was also the only black bear he would have to kill twice in 2 lifetimes. Then Feng Guolong walked into the east wing. Sitting on the kong, he started planning the bear hunt for the night. In the main kitchen, Feng Guolong was already busy. She first lit the earthen stove. When the cleaned wok began to emit a faint white smoke, she scooped half a ladle of soybean oil from the oil jar with the cooking ladle, flicked her wrist, and splashed the oil onto the bottom of the wok. At that time, soybean oil was a rarity, not like later when it was all genetically modified and everywhere. Now, soybean oil required ration coupons, and only the Feng family was so generous. 2 people in the Feng family worked at the forestry center, and the other 4, except the children, could earn work points in the production team. That's why they could afford soybean oil for every meal. Actually, today Feng Guolong was also being a bit extravagant. Usually, she only used the bottom of the ladle. After all, both mother and son were happy today. As soon as the soybean oil hit the wok, a burst of oily smoke rose. The aroma of traditionally pressed soybean oil immediately spread. Feng Guolong put the prepared chopped green onions and garlic cloves into the wok, and with another sizzle, the kitchen's aroma became even richer. She picked up the sauce bowl on the stove, scooped out more than half a ladle of soybean paste. She tapped it against the bottom of the wok, slowly frying the paste until cooked and fragrant. Then she quickly added the prepared eggplants and potatoes into the wok, stir-fried them a few times, picked up the gourd ladle for water, and added water until it covered the potatoes and eggplants in the wok. She pulled over the basin containing the fermented cornmeal, grabbed a lump of cornmeal with one hand, and with both hands alternating, shaped the dough into an oval. Watching for the right moment, with a slap, she stuck the dough onto the side of the wok, one after another, until the dough in the basin was gone. Then cover the pot. Add more fire to the stove. At this time in the Northeast, a housewife's cooking skills are judged by how she makes the cornbread. It looks simple, but it's full of knowledge. If it's off by a bit, it won't taste good. If there's too little water, the cornbread will be hard. If there's too much water, it won't stick and will slide into the pot. So some places call it pot slider. The time and temperature for proofing the dough also have their tricks. If it's too much, it turns sour. If it's too little, it won't be fluffy and the texture won't be good. So this simple cornbread is actually quite a test of one's skill. By 4:30, when a sound came from the fence at the yard gate, Feng Guolong, who was lost in thought, was startled awake. Then came the voice of his eldest brother, Feng Guoxing. "Mom, we're off work." At the yard gate, a thin figure appeared first. In his 40s, with horizontal wrinkles on his forehead and a narrow face, small squinty eyes with a thin mustache, and a cigarette dangling from his mouth. It was Feng Guolong's father, Feng Jianya. Behind him followed a sturdy young man, his eldest brother, Feng Guolong. Seeing his father and eldest brother return, Feng Guolong also got up and went out of the house, heading to the main house. The three met at the door of the main house. Feng Guolong called out, "Dad." Feng Jianye grunted in acknowledgement, raised his hand to pinch the cigarette, but with his thumb and index finger, took 2 quick puffs, and walked into the house first. He went to the stove pit, threw the cigarette butt in, and then headed to the east room. Feng Guolong was tidying up the bowls and chopsticks. Seeing the three enter, she turned and said, "You three get on the Kong. I'll go get the dishes." The three men took off their shoes and got on the Kong, sitting around the Kong table. Feng Jianye sat in the middle with his back to the window. Eldest brother Feng Guolong sat against the east gable wall, and Feng Guolong sat opposite his eldest brother. At this time, there were 4 sets of bowls and chopsticks on the table, and a large plate woven from poplar twigs, filled to the brim with various small dishes. Soon, Feng Guolong came in carrying a large iron tray with a folded rim painted with blue and red carp. On it were more than a dozen steaming cornbreads, their backs golden and shiny, the crust below reddish-brown, giving off an enticing aroma. Feng Guolong quickly stood up to take the tray and placed it on the table. A few minutes later, Feng Guolong brought a large porcelain bowl with potatoes and eggplant, and a small bowl of steamed chili paste. A spoon was placed on the large porcelain bowl. Because by then the potatoes and eggplant had been mashed to a pulp, chopsticks couldn't pick them up. Feng Guolong sat sideways on the edge of the Kong beside Feng Guolong and said to the 3 men, "Eat." Feng Guolong quickly picked up 2 cornbreads, first handing one to his father, then placing the other in his own bowl. He also picked out a few of his father's favorite small dishes from the plate and put them by his father's bowl. Only then did he take a scallion, fold it a few times, dip it in the sauce, take a bite of the cornbread first, and then put the scallion in his mouth to chew together. In an instant, this bite he had been thinking about for half his life filled Feng Guolong with mixed emotions. But it wasn't the time to show it, so he silently lowered his head and ate. It's said that stewed eggplant with potatoes can stuff an old man to death. The more you eat, the more you want. Feng Guolong, who had planned to eat only 80 or 90% full, couldn't stop and ate until he was 110% full. The Feng family usually spoke little during meals, so dinner ended in about 20 minutes. It was only because his mother was waiting for Feng Guolong. His father and eldest brother were already sitting on stools in the shade under the west wing. Feng Guolong helped his mother clear the table, then picked up a stool and headed out. Just as he reached the door, he heard his eldest brother say to his father, "Dad, it's true that a growing boy can eat a poor man out of house and home." Guolong really ate a lot today. He downed for cornbreads. Feng Jianye glanced sideways at Feng Guolong. "You want to eat, but you can't even eat that much," Feng Jianye retorted. Feng Guolong didn't mind. After all, he had the lowest status in the family. As his father said of the 3 brothers, the eldest is steady, the second is quiet, and the third can talk you into a daze. The third, Feng Guolong, was the youngest in the family. His mouth was so glib. He was as sweet as if he had dipped it in honey. In modern terms, he was a brown-noser. The second was originally a quiet one, not fond of talking, keeping everything in his heart. If we didn't take care of him, wouldn't you 2 brothers bully him to death? Actually, the reason Feng Jianye doted on his second son, Feng Guolong, was because he felt that in both personality and way of dealing with people, Feng Guolong was most like his own father, Feng Dashan. And Feng Dashan had always been his idol and role model. He took out a pack of golden gourd cigarettes from his pocket, first lit one for his father, then lit one for himself. Feng Guolong walked over to his eldest brother and put down his stool. He said to his brother, "Brother, if you have time tomorrow, go to town and buy me some valve cores. I want to make a slingshot. It would be even better if you could get a tourniquet from the hospital." Feng Guolong was stunned and asked back, "What are you going to do with that?" "I want to go into the mountains and shoot some gray squirrels." Feng Guolong said, "Ah, okay. Then tomorrow I'll first go to the town hospital and see if I can find someone I know." "A tourniquet would work better," Feng Guolong said. After thinking, he asked Feng Guolong again, "How many tourniquets do you want? If not, how many valve cores?" Feng Guolong thought for a moment and said, "If you can get tourniquets, just get me 4. If not, then 8 valve cores." "Okay, tomorrow I'll try my best to get them for you." Feng Guolong didn't ask more and directly agreed. Because in his view, it was too normal for rural kids to play with slingshots. As for gray squirrels, those weren't something just anyone could hit. If the second brother could hit one, it would be a treat. At this time, Feng Guolong didn't know that from today on, their family would never lack meat. After sitting for a while, feeling it was about time. After greeting his father and brother, Feng Guolong returned to the house, loaded the Type 38 rifle with bullets, slung it over his shoulder, and wrapped the spearhead in a piece of cloth. He filled the water gourd with water, tied the rope loop to the spear, and carried the spear out of the house, heading toward the yard gate. The two people cooling off in the yard saw Feng Guolong in this outfit. Both were startled. His father stood up and asked, "What are you going to do?" His father's voice was a bit urgent and loud. Feng Guolong felt a warmth in his heart, but he kept walking without stopping, because he had something more important than explaining the situation to his father. He was going to see the one he had longed for decades. Without looking back, he said, "Don't worry, it's nothing. Ask Mom, she knows." He left the yard, walked east for over 100 meters, passing 3 houses. He came to the fence outside the 4th house. The layout of this yard was about the same as the Feng family's, except the main house had a tiled roof. The side rooms on both sides were also 2 rooms. But outside the fence, there was an extra hand-pumped well. This well was dug when the forest farm originally drilled wells, considering that most of the male labor in the 4 villages, Hongshan, Xianangu, Shiling, and Dafeng, worked at the forest farm. They drilled a hand-pumped well for each village. The Li family was in the center of the village, so the well was placed here. Of course, the fact that Li Weiguo was the village chief, and that the forest farm director, Lu Jinling, was Li Weiguo's brother-in-law, we won't mention. Feng Guolong stopped and said loudly to the old man sitting on a long bench in the yard, who looked somewhat plump with white hair and a white beard, smoking a pipe, "Grandpa Li, have you eaten?" "Ah, I've eaten. Are you going to the south field, Xiao? Come in and sit for a while." The old man, Li Heping, looked to be 70 or 80 years old. Although his beard and hair were white, he was in excellent spirits and his voice was very loud. "No need, Grandpa Li. It's almost time. I have to relieve Zhang Erbazi." Feng Guolong replied, then turned and lifted his feet, walking while silently counting in his heart, 1, 2, 3, 4. When Feng Guolong counted to 5, a clear voice rang out, like a clear spring under the forest. It stirred one's heart. Feng Guolong stopped and turned, looking at Li Mingxin, who was walking quickly toward him. She had a round oval face, bright big apricot eyes, long eyelashes, a high straight nose, thick willow leaf eyebrows that were long and straight, only curving slightly at the ends. Her features looked bright and beautiful, dignified and heroic. Her skin was so fair it shone, with a faint hint of pink. This kind of skin was called "can't tan" in rural terms, and in later generations' words, it was cool white skin. Her tall, voluptuous figure, with curves faintly visible beneath her loose blue cloth blouse and gray trousers as she moved, made Feng Guolong's eyes glaze over. Unlike other village girls with dry, yellow hair and braids, she had a head of shiny, black, waist-length hair, tied in a ponytail that was rare at the time. It was because Feng Guolong said she looked pretty with a ponytail, like a fairy. Li Mingxin quickly came to Feng Guolong and chattered on, her face flushing slightly with excitement. Feng Guo, with a smile on his face, looked at her with dreamy eyes. He only vaguely heard something about a black bear, something about not sleeping, something about being careful. Seeing Feng Guolong staring blankly, Li Mingxin thought he wasn't taking it seriously, and her heart grew more anxious. She scolded in a low voice, "Feng Er, take this seriously, don't brush it off." That shout brought Feng Guolong back to reality. Looking at the person he had been longing for day and night, he smiled and replied, "I know, Sister Mingxin, don't worry. Isn't it enough that you gave me this gun?" Li Mingxin was taken aback and asked, "How did you know I asked my dad to give it to you?" "I told him not to say it was from me. Because who else, but you could care about me so much." He replied in a teasing tone, "You're so full of yourself." Li Mingxin lightly patted Feng Guolong's shoulder and then said, "Don't take it lightly. Don't sleep tonight. Be careful. If the black bear comes, shoot it. My dad will come patrol soon." Feng Guolong smiled and said, "Don't worry, sis. If that black bear dares to come, I'll shoot it. I'll make you a coat from its fur as a betrothal gift." Feng Guolong deliberately emphasized the words betrothal gift, pretending to be very excited. When Li Mingxin heard this, her cheeks flushed red, spreading to her neck. For a moment, she didn't know what to say, just staring blankly at Feng Guolong. Seeing Li Mingxin stunned, Feng Guolong continued to ask, "Is that okay, Sister Mingxin?" Hearing Feng Guolong ask again, Li Mingxin quickly snapped back to reality. Then shyly, and with a lack of confidence, she scolded, "I really underestimated you. You mute." As she spoke, she reached out and grabbed Feng Guolong's ear. Feng Guolong didn't dodge. He let Li Mingxin pull his ear and listened as she said, "How dare you tease your sister? You've gotten bold, huh?" After letting her pull a few times, Feng Guolong raised his hand and removed Li Mingxin's hand from his ear. He held it, not letting go. Li Mingxin looked at Feng Guolong holding her hand in surprise, dumbfounded, as if shocked. It took a while before Li Mingxin reacted. Then her face turned even redder, and she turned and ran off quickly. She ran back into the house. Old Master Li, who had seen everything, smiled and muttered, "It's over. This old man will have no one to take care of him." Feng Guolong, now walking towards the southern fields, couldn't help but sigh. Just holding hands can stir my lower abdomen. Youth, it's really good. Thinking back to his previous life, when this black bear had turned him into a cripple and he had sunk into despair, since he had been given a second chance, he had to avenge that no matter what. Although in his previous life he had food and clothing, he had been depressed for decades. Since heaven had given him this opportunity, he was determined to live a thriving life. Though he didn't need to control the world like the protagonists in audio novels, at least he wanted his loved ones to live smoothly and happily. And for Feng Guolong, the word turnaround had a special meaning. In his previous life, although he and Li Mingxin both knew their feelings, it was Li Mingxin who confessed to him. When he was carrying a set of bedding and some tools, heading into the mountains to build a cellar and reaching the back mountain, Li Mingxin caught up with him. In a hoarse voice, she asked if he was willing to marry her. She was willing to marry him. She didn't care how much hardship she would endure or what others said. As long as he was willing, she would be with him for a lifetime. But Feng Guolong refused. He was afraid he couldn't give her a happy life. He was afraid of dragging her down. A good girl like her should live a happy and fulfilling life, and shouldn't have to taste the bitterness of life or face the hardships of living with a cripple like him. So he chose to escape. In fact, as early as when he had just returned home from the hospital to recuperate, Li Mingxin and the Li family already knew the outcome. Yet Li Mingxin still asked her family to come and ask if Feng Guolong was willing to marry her. The one who came was Old Master Li. Amid the expectant gazes of the whole family and Old Master Li, he chose to escape and refuse. Thinking carefully, he had let down not only Li Mingxin. It was clearly two families. As it turned out, because of his escape, both families suffered great harm. Since that refusal, it was their last meeting. After that, Li Mingxin became depressed and her condition worsened, so much so that her mother quit her job, her eldest brother took leave, and the whole family accompanied her, using the savings Old Master Li had accumulated in his youth to seek medical treatment across the country. Unfortunately, at that time, the concept of depression didn't exist in China. There was no effective treatment. Within a few years, she passed away. The Li family never returned, and his parents, Feng Jianya and Feng Guolong, felt ashamed before the Li family. After the Li family left, they also left and never contacted him again, and they didn't even inform him of their deaths. It was only later that his eldest nephew came to tell him. It was the old couple's insistence, and it was when he learned that his father had passed away and both parents were gone, that he drank alone for a whole day, forgot to feed the dog, and the dog went out to find food. When he woke up the next day, he forced his heavy body and muddled head to go out to find the dog, and he fell and died, probably left to rot in the wilderness. It was probably retribution. He sighed softly, shook his head, and suppressed these bad memories. Since heaven had shown mercy, he should seize the opportunity. In his previous life, Li Mingxin had taken the initiative to express her feelings, so this time it would be him. Take the initiative, transform from a mute to a domineering CEO. He knew some tricks. In his previous life, the Li family had lived miserably, so this time he would make it up to them. If necessary, he would even become a live-in son-in-law. Especially Old Master Li. He must let him see the millennium, and strive to make him a centenarian war veteran or something. Better yet, get him on the news, and include his own grandfather's share. And for his brother-in-law Li Mingda, he would try to help him get promoted. We don't have connections, but we have the mountains. Others send wine and cigarettes. We send deer antler and tiger penis. See whose gifts are more effective. Whatever we lack, we'll just go into the mountains and get it. If that doesn't work, we'll give him merits. In the vast mountains of the Lesser Xing'an, there are several Japanese bases. Find one for my brother-in-law, and he'll rise quickly. Thinking of this, Feng Guolong's body stiffened. He actually knew the exact location of a Japanese base. It was in 1987 in his previous life, when a hunter from a nearby village was chasing a lynx. After killing the lynx on a rocky mountain, the lynx fell into a cave opening. The hunter felt something was wrong, crawled in from the opening, and found it was a ventilation shaft, leading to a base inside. The hunter was bold and crawled along the vent. Unexpectedly, as soon as he came out of the vent, he fell into a mass grave where the Japanese had disposed of the bodies of their compatriots. No matter how bold, no one could withstand that test. He was terrified. He forced himself to travel for an afternoon and a night to return to the village, reported to the village, and then fainted. The whole village was in an uproar. The news spread like wildfire. Before they could suppress the information, it had spread for dozens of miles. Finally, the authorities had no choice but to mobilize the militia, organizing several hundred people to dig through the rocks and clear the entrance that the Japanese had blown up. Only then did the higher-ups take over. As for what was inside, only the higher-ups knew. Thinking of this, Feng Guolong shuddered. Should he go check out that place? After all, he was quite curious about what was inside. Well, no rush. He'd go after the heavy snow sealed the mountain. He couldn't go now anyway. It wasn't safe. He had to win the immediate battle of turning his life around before thinking about the future. As for why he didn't consider failure, it was because there was no possibility of failure. In the latter half of his previous life, he had replayed that scene countless times. The kill scene he had imagined countless times. And the two crucial issues, marksmanship and mindset. First, marksmanship. Thanks to years of practice before the gun ban in his previous life, with hundreds of rounds of ammunition fed through, Feng Guolong at this moment was worlds apart from his former incompetent self. As for mindset, in his previous life, it was his first time facing a black bear face-to-face, and that panic and fear, there was no way to avoid it. But now, he had rehearsed the scene of revenge in his mind countless times. When facing the black bear again, it was no longer fear, but excitement. The excitement of avenging a great wrong. Lost in thought, he was nearing the end of the cornfield furrow. Turning the corner ahead, he would see the farmer's hut. He quickened his pace, and just as he turned out of the cornfield, he saw Zhang Erbao pacing back and forth in front of the hut. Feng Guolong thought, if it weren't for the fact that in the previous life you had a bit of conscience, today I would definitely let you get swiped by the bear again. In his previous life, after Zhang Erbao got swiped by the bear, he gave up the idea of hunting in the mountains and started thinking about the wild mountain products business. Zhang Erbao's elder brother, Zhang Debao, was in town running a black market with others. Zhang Erbao started his mountain products business after the policy was relaxed in '83. Within a few years, he was doing very well and opened a mountain products store in the city. It's often said that poverty breeds cunning, but wealth fosters conscience. This guy was a perfect example. After becoming successful, he often came to the mountains to visit him in person, and when buying his mountain products, he didn't make a penny of profit, paying him the full selling price. When Feng Guolong was still about 10 meters away from Zhang Erbao finally noticed him. He said excitedly, "Feng Er, you're here." Feng Guolong gave a faint hum as a response. Zhang Erbao wasn't offended. Because Feng Guolong was just a quiet person, he didn't look down on others, he just didn't like to talk. Zhang Erbao grabbed his arm and said urgently, "I heard someone saw a black bear on the opposite slope yesterday. Let's go check it out now, and if we find it, we'll knock it off. That thing is worth a fortune." Feng Guolong first sat down on the fallen log by the hut, then slowly unwrapped the ragged cloth covering the spear. He drove the spear into the next spot, and the spear shaft pierced into the soft soil of the grassland, standing upright. After listening to Zhang Erbao's words, Feng Guolong looked at him as if he were an idiot. He didn't say anything. Zhang Erbao saw Feng Guolong's strange look and felt a bit deflated, so he weakly asked, "What's wrong?" Feng Guolong asked, "Have you ever seen a black bear?" Zhang Erbao was stunned and replied, "No, what difference does it make?" Feng Guolong was speechless at Zhang Erbao's answer. If you've never seen a bear, you want to hunt one. That's like looking for a lantern in a latrine, asking for death. Feng Guolong patiently explained. The fear when a person first sees a black bear is uncontrollable. Besides, it's almost dark now, and going into the mountains at night to hunt a black bear is not something you can just find. Sometimes you can't find it, and then you might just run into it casually. What if we run into it head-on at night? Are you planning to rely on our combined 200+ pounds to stuff the bear to death? When he came, Feng Guolong had looked at the opposite slope several times, but he didn't see a single hair of the black bear, and he didn't know where it was hiding. He wasn't even sure if it was there. After hearing this, Zhang Erbao understood that Feng Er had refused. Zhang Erbao knew there was no chance, so he turned to leave. Seeing the Type 38 rifle on Feng Guolong's back and the spear on the ground, Zhang Erbao couldn't help asking, "If you don't want to hunt the bear, why did you change your gear?" Feng Er was even more speechless. He replied grumpily, "I'm afraid of dying. If it comes, I'll shoot to scare it away." Zhang Erbao was also speechless and went into the hut dejectedly, picked up his shotgun and water gourd, and prepared to head home. As he passed Feng Guolong, he reminded him, "Well, be careful yourself. I'm heading back now." Feng Guolong grunted and waved his hand. Zhang Erbao turned around and dawdled, looking back toward the opposite slope as he walked. When Zhang Erbao had gone about 10 meters, Feng Guolong immediately stood up, untied the water gourd from the spear, and placed it on the ground. He also took down the Type 38 rifle from his back, holding it with both hands, the barrel angled downward. Then, Feng Guolong stood there quietly, watching Zhang Erbao, not making a sound. Because Feng Guolong wasn't sure if the black bear would come, and whether the events of his previous life would happen in this world. Whether these people were still the same people. After all, the idea of living again was too unbelievable. He was also afraid now, afraid that everything now was just a dream. Perhaps these people were no longer the same people. Chaotic thoughts interweaved in his mind. Feng Guolong tried hard to calm his emotions and adjust his state. Until, as Zhang Erbao was about to reach the corner, he paused, then crouched down and hid behind the grass by the roadside. After waiting for about 10 seconds, Feng Guolong saw Zhang Erbao break open the barrel of his shotgun, load a bullet, and close the barrel. He then carried the gun off the dirt road and slowly slipped into the bushes outside the road. Hongshan village is located in the middle of the lesser Xing'an Mountains, which generally run northwest-southeast. The terrain is higher in the southeast and lower in the northwest. The slope ahead is a large ridge, locally called Hongsong Ridge, because of the many Korean pines growing there. From north to south, the terrain rises, connecting intermittently to Pingding Mountain in the south. Although the soil at the foot of this slope is fertile, it is full of rocks, so the shrubs of all sizes are especially lush and tall. Once Zhang Erbao entered, Feng Guolong could no longer see him. Feng Guolong immediately pulled the bolt and chambered around. He still didn't raise the rifle to his cheek, because he wasn't sure of the bear's position and didn't dare shoot, fearing the bear would run away. At such a distance, if the bear ran, where would he find it? He stood quietly, waiting, trying hard to control himself and not let his emotions fluctuate too much. Steady, steady, steady. Finally, bang! A gunshot rang out. Feng Guolong no longer hesitated or felt anxious. He immediately raised the rifle to his cheek, aiming at the edge of the bushes, waiting for the moment the black bear rushed out. But his finger wasn't on the trigger because he was afraid of hitting Zhang Erbao, since the bear was behind him. His right index finger rested against the rifle body. He aimed with full concentration. After what seemed like an eternity, finally, Zhang Erbao's figure appeared and then disappeared, and Feng Guolong immediately reacted. His index finger, which had been against the rifle, immediately moved to the trigger. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. At this moment, Feng Guolong was completely unmoved by external things, like a sculpture, until a dark shadow appeared in the sight. Bang! A gunshot, and the bullet entered the bear's right shoulder, exiting near the right collarbone, blossoming into a spray of blood. Feng Guolong didn't even look at the bear. He pulled the bolt, ejected the casing, and chambered another round, simple and direct. At this moment, Zhang Erbao was also startled. That's not right. I haven't even called for help yet. Why did he shoot? But he couldn't care about that, and ran desperately toward Feng Guolong. Meanwhile, the black bear was completely enraged by the pain of broken bones. It charged toward the direction of the gunshot, vowing to tear apart the enemy that had hurt it. Feng Guolong raised the rifle to his cheek again and saw Zhang Erbao between him and the bear, so he didn't dare shoot. Without time to hesitate, Feng Guolong shouted at Zhang Erbao, "Get into the cornfield." Zhang Erbao, who was at a loss, immediately obeyed and dove into the cornfield without hesitation. The moment Zhang Erbao and the bear separated, Feng Guolong immediately pulled the trigger. Bang! Another spray of blood. Without time to see where it hit, Feng Guolong immediately pulled the bolt, ejected the casing, and chambered another round. At the same time, he changed his stance from standing to kneeling. He raised the rifle to his cheek again, aiming at the bear, without a moment's hesitation, the moment the bear appeared in the sight. Bang! A spray of blood. If anyone had been watching, they would have noticed that the bear's speed had slowed down, and its figure was unsteady. Feng Guolong didn't have time to look at the bear. He repeated the actions. Pull the bolt, eject, chamber, aim. Pull the trigger. Bang! Another spray of blood. By now, the bear had stopped moving, only continuing forward due to inertia. Bang! Another spray of blood. Without a second thought, Feng Guolong threw his gun to the ground, pulled out the spear stuck in the earth, and charged toward the black bear that was crawling more than 20 meters ahead. When he got close, he held the spear in the middle with his left hand facing outward and gripped the end with his right hand facing inward. Coordinating his waist, legs, and swinging both arms, he stabbed at the bear's neck. Thud! Once. He immediately pulled out the spear and stabbed again. Thud! Another time. Then pulled it out again, over and over. The whole process was bloody and brutal. Meanwhile, Li Weiguo was completely shocked by the scene. He stood frozen in place. He had just turned the corner and saw Feng Guolong stabbing the black bear. Again and again. It wasn't until Feng Guolong exhausted all his strength and collapsed to the ground that the bear's head rolled away. Its eyes were wide open, staring at the sky. Only then did Li Weiguo and the others react and quickly run over to Feng Guolong, crouching around him. Li Weiguo hurriedly supported Feng Guolong and laid him in his arms. He asked with concern, "Heir, how are you? Where are you hurt?" Feng Guolong gasped for breath and replied intermittently, "Uncle, I'm fine. Not hurt, just tired. Scared. Uncle, hurry and take the gallbladder." "I can't." Feng Guolong really couldn't. In his previous life, he hadn't been the one to take the bear's gallbladder. Although he had learned from others later, he had never actually done it. Moreover, they had taken the gallbladder too late. It had been absorbed by the liver, leaving less than half. What a waste of a large iron gall. It only sold for about 200 yuan. Li Weiguo had already checked Feng Guolong's body and found that, as he said, he had no injuries at all, just exhausted. Without delay, he called 2 people to help, and together they turned the black bear over. Only then did everyone see how miserable the bear was. It had several holes all over its body, and its head was gone. Li Weiguo picked up the spear from the ground, used the blade to cut open the bear's abdomen, and with a knife made a few cuts under the bear's neck, then pulled out the entire lantern-like internal organs. He rummaged through the liver lobes, found the bile duct, and cut out the bear's gallbladder. The whole process took only a few minutes and looked quite skilled. Wow. The bear gall was over a handspan long. In the Northeast, a handspan is a unit of length measured by the distance between the tips of the thumb and index finger when spread apart, and it looked like it weighed over half a jin. The gallbladder had a faint sheen with some golden spots. A top-quality large iron gall. Li Weiguo held the gallbladder with both hands and asked Feng Guolong, "Heir, what should we do with it?" Feng Guolong had recovered by then and was standing nearby. He thought for a moment and said, "Take it back and let my dad handle it. He should know how, right?" "Of course," Li Weiguo said bluntly. "In the past, your grandfather and I dealt with these quite a bit." That was true. Feng Guolong remembered his grandfather, Feng Dashan, who had been nicknamed Blind Feng back then. In the Northeast, the nickname Blind wasn't given to just anyone. His grandfather wasn't just a bandit who fought the Japanese. He was also a famous hunter for 100 miles around. Even his apprentice, Wang Chuyang, was now the top shooter in the Dakingshan forest farm area. "All right, uncle, I'll trouble you to carry this black bear back. And give these men a bit more meat. If anyone in the village comes to the house, give them a little too." Feng Guolong looked at the sky and figured that if they carried it back now, quite a few people would see it. Around here, there was a saying that mountain wealth shouldn't be kept solely for oneself. If someone saw you, you didn't have to give them the valuable parts, but you had to share some meat. In short, it was to avoid being reported. Because hunting required a hunter's license. Without it, it was poaching. The forestry department's attitude was, if the people don't report, the officials won't investigate. If reported, they would arrest you. If no one saw you hunting, it was fine. If someone saw, you gave them a share, and that was that. Li Weiguo nodded inwardly, thinking this young man was righteous and knew how to handle people. At that moment, he didn't know that this righteous young man would soon become his son-in-law. Meanwhile, the other militiamen were overjoyed. They were already going to get some meat, and Feng Guolong had specifically told them to give them more. They felt very pleased. They all smiled and said, "No trouble, what trouble? Yeah, it's just a little effort. Small matter, small matter." Feng Heir has really made something of himself. Not only capable, but also righteous. Feng Guolong couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He had to thank Zhang Erbao for this. It was he who had lured the bear over. Huh, Zhang Erbao, where had that kid gone? Feng Guolong quickly turned and shouted, "Zhang Erbao! Zhang Erbao, where did you run off to?" Just then, from the cornfield came, "Here, here." Zhang Erbao emerged from the distant cornfield, hunched over. He walked over with his legs apart, limping, looking very comical. He stopped a short distance in front of Feng Guolong. Feng Guolong thought he was injured and asked, "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" Zhang Erbao quickly waved his hand and replied, No, I ran too fast and pulled a muscle in my leg." Then, Zhang Erbao stammered to Feng Guolong, "Feng Heir, I'm sorry. I was scared out of my wits at the time. I really didn't mean to set you up. And thank you for saving my life. Really, I didn't mean it. I was just confused. My brother needed money for something, and I was blinded by greed." Seeing that Zhang Erbao seemed sincere, Feng Guolong didn't say much. His expression softened and he asked, "All right, forget about that. What do you want to do about this bear?" Zhang Erbao was confused and asked, "What do you mean?" Feng Guolong said, The bear is dead, and the goods are taken. What I mean is, how do you want to split it? Feng Guolong said this because he actually wanted to give him a share. Why? Because Zhang Erbao's family was indeed quite poor. He and his older brother, two grown boys, were eating their father out of house and home. No one in his family had a job. They relied on his mother picking wild vegetables and his brother selling them on the black market. How much money could that bring in? In the summer of '82, the production team hadn't been disbanded yet. Zhang Erbao's family had no forest farm workers. The work points from the production team were practically worthless these days. So the family worked hard all year and might still end up owing the production team money. But from what Feng Guolong had observed in his previous life, this family was honest and decent, so he wanted to help them. When Zhang Erbao heard this, he immediately shook his head and said, "What do I want? If it weren't for you, I'd be bear crap today. I don't want to share. I haven't even thanked you for saving my life. I don't want a single hair of this bear. It's all yours. You guys go ahead and handle it. I'm going home first." With that, Zhang Erbao turned and left, limping and hobbling back. Watching Zhang Erbao walk away, Feng Guolong didn't say anything. He'd wait until they sold the bear gall to deal with it. By then, Li Weigua and the others had already roughly processed the bear. They were ready to carry the bear back. Li Weigua came over and said to Feng Guolong, "Heir, can you manage tonight? If not, I'll find someone to take your place." Feng Guolong waved his hand. "It's fine, uncle. Don't worry, I've recovered. Besides, with all this bear blood on the ground, no wild animals will come tonight." Li Weigua nodded slightly. Indeed, the bear had been beaten so badly that there was bear blood all along the path. Not just tonight, but probably for the next few days, there would be no trouble. So he nodded and said, "All right then, we'll head back first and deliver the bear to your house." Then he led the men back, watching them lift the bear, which had originally weighed about 300 jin. But after having its organs removed, it now weighed only about 200 jin. Four men carried it by its four paws, while another militiaman carried the heart, liver, and lungs, and another held the intestines and stomach. In those days, no meat was thrown away. Even the intestines and stomach were considered precious. Li Weigua held the bear gall in one hand and the bear head in the other. The bear's head, with its teeth bared and eyes wide open, looked pitifully fierce. Looking at the bear head, Feng Guolong had a sudden idea, recalling the animal tooth ornaments from his previous life that were worth a good amount of money. So he said to Li Weigua, "Uncle, when you get to my house, have my big brother pull out the bear's four fangs. I want to keep them for fun." Li Weigua nodded, but the other 5 militiamen were a bit unsettled. This Feng heir was too ruthless. He had already mutilated the bear so badly, and now he wanted to desecrate the corpse. He wouldn't even spare the teeth. Actually, it wasn't surprising that others thought this way. In these years, this thing isn't worth much, but by the 2000s, a single wolf tooth would cost over 1,000, let alone a bear tooth. And this bear holds special significance for Feng Guolong. I must keep it and later have someone make it into a necklace to wear. Watching the group gradually walk away, Feng Guolong walked into the grass, picked up the gun, and took bullets from his pocket. He pressed them into the chamber, just in case. Then he got up and gathered some dry branches, planning to burn some mugwort to smoke away mosquitoes, as it would get dark soon and there would be more mosquitoes. Not to mention Feng Guolong making a fire to smoke mosquitoes. When Li Weigua and the others carried the black bear back to the village, it caused quite a stir. It was just past 6 o'clock, the time when it was about to get dark. Every household had finished dinner, either enjoying the cool in their yards or chatting in groups of 3 by the roadside. Pairs of 2 were chatting idly. Seeing Li Weigua leading the group carrying the black bear, they swarmed around. They all started asking questions at once. "Where did you get the bear? Who killed it? This big bear must weigh over 300 jin." Seeing the noisy crowd, Li Weigua explained a few things. When the crowd heard it was Feng heir who killed it, several families who were close to the Feng family, and a few who purely wanted to get a share of the bear meat, immediately went forward and took over from those carrying the bear. The even larger group continued towards the Feng family. The remaining villagers didn't idle either, continuing to discuss animatedly. Some gossipy women had already started spreading the news. When the group arrived at the Li family's doorstep, Li Mingxin and Old Master Li were also standing outside the fence, watching the noisy procession. Li Mingxin quickly stepped forward. "Dad, what's going on? Where did you get the bear?" Li Weigua waved his hand, signaling the group to continue. He said to Li Mingxin, "Heir killed it. That guy, he's fierce. He used a spear to chop off the bear's head." Li Mingxin's head buzzed, and she stood frozen in place. Tears immediately filled her eyes, and her lips trembled as she asked, "Where's Heir?" At this time, it was about to get dark and the light was poor. Li Weigua didn't notice his daughter's unusual state. He replied, "He's in the field." Li Mingxin turned and ran, heading out of the village. Only then did Li Weigua feel something was wrong. He hurriedly shouted at her retreating figure, "Slow down, girl. Don't worry, nothing happened." But Li Mingxin couldn't hear him now. She ran out of the village without looking back. Li Heping, leaning on his cane outside the fence, glared at Li Weigua. "You're useless, can't even speak clearly." After saying this, he turned and went into the yard. Li Weigua scratched the back of his head speechlessly, then headed towards the Feng family. When Li Mingxin ran to Feng Guolong's field-watching shed, she was out of breath, her pretty face so red it seemed to drip blood. Sweat beads rolled down her cheeks and dripped from her smooth chin. Seeing Li Mingxin gasping for breath, Feng Guolong quickly stepped forward to support her, guiding her to sit on a fallen log beside the shed. He asked, "What's wrong, sis? Why are you running so fast?" Li Mingxin, seeing that Feng Guolong was fine, finally breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't speak, just adjusted her breathing. The two sat on the log, their faces lit by the firelight. After a while, Li Mingxin recovered and reached out to pinch Feng Guolong's ear, this time without holding back, using real force. She scolded, "I told you to use a spear on the bear. Why didn't you use the gun? What were you showing off with the spear for?" "Trying to show off." Feng Guolong winced in pain and quickly grabbed her hand, begging for mercy. "Ouch! Ouch! Ouch! Sis, let go. It hurts." "Who said I used a spear on the bear? I ran out of bullets. The bear was almost dead then. I was scared, so I used the spear to finish it off." Hearing this, and seeing that Feng Guolong had no injuries, she realized she had been too hasty and hadn't heard the whole story. She loosened her grip, but didn't let go. She asked, "Really? You're not lying to me?" Feng Guolong felt the pain in his ear disappear and immediately tried to please her. "Of course. Who said I used a spear on the bear? That's nonsense." Hearing Feng Guolong say that her father had spread rumors, Li Mingxin knew it was her fault for not listening fully and felt a bit embarrassed. But then she thought, "I was just worried about you." So she gave Feng Guolong another smack. He winced again. "Who's spreading rumors? My dad said you chopped off the bear's head with a spear. What really happened? Tell me quickly." Feng Guolong felt the pressure on his ear disappear and knew he had been set up by his future father-in-law. He reached out with both hands. He took Li Mingxin's hand off his ear but didn't let go and began to tell the story. After Li Mingxin heard the whole story, she felt a bit of fear and quickly asked, "Why didn't you run then? Why did you have to fight the bear?" As he rubbed her soft, boneless hand, Feng Guolong said with a grin, "Didn't I say? I need to give you a betrothal gift, and it has to come from that bear." Only then did Li Mingxin realize her hand had been held in his all this time. How long had it been? He had taken advantage of her, and worse, he was even rubbing it. The strange sensation made Li Mingxin both shy and angry. She quickly pulled her hand back and slapped Feng Guolong hard on the shoulder. Blushing, she scolded, "Who wants your broken bear skin? I'd have to work so hard to patch it up." Feng Guolong looked at Li Mingxin's reaction and heard her words, knowing it was a success. He had an idea. He put on a serious expression. Li Mingxin saw Feng Guolong's face change and was momentarily stunned, wondering what was going on. Then she saw him take advantage of her moment of distraction. He reached under her armpits and hugged her. Feng Guolong held Li Mingxin, resting his chin on her shoulder, and brought his mouth close to her ear. In a low, affectionate voice, he said to her, "Sis, when the bear charged at me earlier, I thought I was going to die. At that moment, my mind went blank. All I could think of was you. Only then did I realize you are the most important person to me. It was for you that I reacted and survived. You are the meaning of my life. Sis, I want to marry you. I want you to be my wife. I want us to be together forever. Since we never know which comes first, tomorrow or the unexpected, I want to marry you as soon as possible, the sooner the better." Listening to the sweet words by her ear, feeling the hot breath, and savoring the feeling of being held in his arms, Li Mingxin was just a girl of the 1980s. She had never experienced anything like this. She was completely stunned, her mind almost short-circuiting. In this era, although free love was advocated, in rural areas, most love stories began with a matchmaker's words. Feng Guolong's actions could be considered heretical and disruptive to social norms. In a few years, he might even be charged with hooliganism and paraded through the streets. But you can't help that the two were deeply in love. Li Mingxin was completely overwhelmed by Feng Guolong's modern sweet talk. Even in romantic novels, there was nothing like this. At this moment, Li Mingxin was completely dazed, standing there speechless. Feng Guolong wasn't anxious, savoring the first beautiful moment of his 2 lifetimes. But, just as one was in a daze, not knowing what to do, and the other was enjoying the wonderful feeling of the person in his arms. A flashlight beam shone from the direction they had come. Li Mingxin saw the light first, and it was this light that woke her from her daze. Seeing who it was, she struggled out of Feng Guolong's embrace like an electric shock and quickly got up and hid in the shed. Feng Guolong also sensed something was wrong and turned to look behind him. He saw a person approaching with a flashlight. After Li Weigua delivered the bear to the Feng family, it woke her hazy mind. Seeing who had come, Li Mingxin struggled out of Feng Guolong's embrace as if shocked by electricity. She immediately got up and slipped into the shed. At this moment, Feng Guolong also sensed something was wrong and immediately turned around to look behind him. He saw a person walking over with a flashlight. After Li Weigua delivered the bear to the Feng family, then they explained the whole situation to Feng Jianya and his wife. But how could the couple rest easy? Feng Guolong had Feng Jianya and his son Feng Guoxing stay home to oversee the distribution of the bear meat. She took a flashlight and went to check on Feng Guolong. She had already seen the two embracing when she turned the corner from the cornfield. Because there was a bonfire in front of them, they were quite conspicuous in the firelight. Since there was still some daylight and the path was clear, Feng Guolong hadn't turned on her flashlight. The two couldn't see in the dark beyond the firelight, but from their position, Feng Guolong was hidden in the darkness. Feng Guolong felt helpless. Although both families knew and the two children were in love, for the sake of her future daughter-in-law's reputation, she decided to let them cool down and not do anything rash. So she turned back to the corner of the cornfield, turned on her flashlight and waved it around, then came over. Feng Guolong stood up and shouted toward the direction of the newcomer. "Who's there?" Feng Guolong replied, "It's me, son. Mom came to see you." Hearing Feng Guolong's voice, Feng Guolong breathed a sigh of relief. After all, it wouldn't be good if someone saw this. Li Mingxin also came out of the shed blushing shyly. Together with Feng Guolong, they went to meet Feng Guolong. Seeing that Feng Guolong was still 70 or 80 meters away, Feng Guolong whispered, "Sis, you agreed, right?" Li Mingxin quietly pinched Feng Guolong's arm. She whispered an hom. Feng Guolong was overjoyed. When Feng Guolong approached and saw Feng Guolong's joyful expression, she understood immediately and was happy too. The three didn't chat much. After asking about the situation, Feng Guolong left with Li Mingxin, using her flashlight. As she left, Feng Guolong discussed with Feng Guolong. After selling the bear gall, give Zhang Erbao 20% as a tip for the information. After all, there are rules in hunting. Whoever gives you a tip, you have to share some of the spoils with them. Not to mention that Zhang Erbao even led the black bear right to them. After the two left, Feng Guolong threw the mugwort and wormwood he had pulled earlier into the blazing fire. Now the buzzing of mosquitoes could be heard. Soon, wisps of smoke rose from the fire. Feng Guolong dragged the wooden fence from the shed entrance, went inside, and blocked the door. Then he lay down on the wooden boards in the shed. Perhaps because he had expended too much energy earlier, Feng Guolong soon fell into a deep sleep. When Feng Guolong got home, the yard was already full of people. Goodness, nearly half the households in the village had someone there. There were strong men helping with the butchering and gossiping women. There were also a few brats circling the bear skin stretched on the frame, touching it here and there. With so many people, work went fast. The fat layer on the bear skin was already scraped off. The bear meat was also divided. For bear paws were placed in a large wicker basket. For bear legs were laid out in a row on a long bench. The family's low table was set up in the center of the yard, with dozens of pieces of bear meat, each about a pound, on it. Seeing Feng Guolong return, a group of women immediately surrounded her and started chattering. "You're back, Lon. How's your second son? He's not hurt, is he?" "Yeah, that big black bear is no easy prey. Is the kid okay?" "Isn't that so? That second son has really made something of himself. Just like your father-in-law." Actually, these people already knew what had happened. They just wanted to show concern or praise Feng Guolong. After all, saying nice things wouldn't hurt when it came time to take meat. After replying to each one, Feng Guolong said to everyone, "Don't worry, everyone. There's enough for all. I'll go inside and tidy up first." After exchanging pleasantries with the women, Feng Guolong went into the house and saw Lu Jinlan tying a hemp rope around the scalded bear gall. Seeing Feng Guolong come in, Lu Jinlan asked, "Sister-in-law, where should we hang this bear gall?" "I'll have his father hang it later." "Sister-in-law, just leave it here for now," Feng Guolong said as she walked to the cupboard, took out an empty bowl, turned around, and placed the bear gall in it. Then she said to Lu Jinlan, "Sister-in-law, don't rush off later. Let's talk about something." "Oh, okay. I'm not in a hurry," Lu Jinlan replied. Then the two went out of the house and helped distribute the bear meat. The pieces were about a pound each. Those who hadn't helped were given first pick, one piece per family. Those with closer relations got the fattier pieces, since people were short on oil and fat these days. The militiamen who helped carry the bear and those who came later to take over got 2 pieces each, choosing the larger ones. After the meat was distributed, the crowd gradually dispersed. After a simple cleanup of the yard, Feng Guolong said to Feng Guolong, "Son, go pull out the bear's teeth." Then she turned to the Li couple and said, "Brother, sister-in-law, let's go inside and talk." Entering the east room, Feng Guolong and Lu Jinlan sat on the edge of the calm, while Feng Jianya and Li Weiguo sat on stools on the floor. Seeing everyone seated, Feng Guolong spoke directly to Lu Jinlan. "Sister-in-law, I won't beat around the bush with you. We've known each other for so many years, so I'll be straightforward." Hearing this, Lu Jinlan had to give her an opening. She slapped her thigh and said, "Oh, sister-in-law, we've been friends for generations. Just say it." After hearing this, Feng Guolong said seriously, "Sister-in-law, I want to talk to you about your Mingxin and my second son. The 2 children have grown up together. We've seen their feelings. Today I asked my son, and he does have that intention. Sister-in-law, what do you think?" Lu Jinlan was stunned, as if she understood something. In fact, when Feng Er passed by the Li family on his way to the fields and whispered with Li Mingxin outside the fence, Lu Jinlan had seen it. When the couple finished eating and Li Mingxin came in to clear the table, her face was red. How could a mother not understand? But Lu Jinlan didn't make a decision immediately. After all, it was a matter of lifelong importance and couldn't be taken lightly. Looking at Feng Guolong's expectant eyes, Lu Jinlan replied, "Sister-in-law, this is the children's business. I have to ask my daughter, right? I'll go back and ask her later. As long as she says yes, I have no objections. Tomorrow morning, I'll give you an answer. I'll come by before I go to work." Okay, that's great. Then I'll wait for your news tomorrow, sister-in-law." Li Weiguo and Feng Jianya exchanged glances, both a bit confused. "You gave birth to the children, but you're so high-handed. Shouldn't I be informed about such a big matter? But don't underestimate men's adaptability." Seeing that the big matter was settled, Feng Jianya immediately wore a knowing smile, as if to say, "I told him to say that. How could we men bring up such a topic?" He quickly took out a cigarette, offered one to Li Weiguo, struck a match, and with one hand holding the match and the other shielding the flame, lit Li Weiguo's cigarette. Li Weiguo took a drag and gave Feng Jianya a slight nod, meaning, "Don't worry, brother. I'll take care of this. It's settled." Ignoring the 2 men sitting on the floor, the 2 old sisters went to the outer room, kitchen. Feng Guolong took out a snakeskin bag and put 2 bear legs, a rack of bear ribs, and a few large chunks of bear meat into it. Lu Jinlan was puzzled. "Sister-in-law, shouldn't you soak the meat in cold water? What are you doing?" Feng Guolong smiled and said, "This is for your family. I can't keep all that I've kept either. Take these. Give some to your daughter's maternal uncle, and give some to the people in your canteen." Lu Jinlan quickly grabbed Feng Guolong's hand as she was about to put more bear meat into the bag, and said urgently, "Don't, sister-in-law. What are you doing? Just take a little to eat. Don't give it away." Feng Guolong pushed Lu Jinlan's hand away and said with emotion, "Sister-in-law, why are you being so distant with me? We've been like sisters all these years, and now we're about to become in-laws. What a fate we have." Hearing Feng Guolong's words, Lu Jinlan was also deeply moved. The 2 had indeed gotten along well over the years. In the early years when she wasn't working, the 2 were together almost every day. Compared to their friendship, this little bit of stuff was nothing. "All right, sister-in-law, then I won't say thank you, or it would be a bit awkward." Lu Jinlan said, "That's right, sister-in-law, who are we to each other?" Feng Guolong and the other woman got busy again. Li Weiguo and Feng Jianya, who had just come out after smoking a cigarette, listening to their conversation, thought to themselves, "So you 2 are sisters, and we 2 are outsiders. We weren't told about such an important matter concerning the children, and you 2 just decided it directly." Feng Guolong handed the snakeskin bag to Li Weiguo and continued, "Brother, you carry this heavy one. Let my sister-in-law carry the pot of bear fat. Tomorrow, let the girl render it." This time, Lu Jinlan didn't say anything to refuse. When the 4 of them walked out of the house, Feng Guolong was using pliers to pry out bear teeth. Actually, he had heard most of the conversation inside and knew what was going on. He sighed. "Your second son is your own flesh and blood, but I'm just your hired hand." After Li Weiguo and his wife left, Feng Guolong also finished cleaning the bear teeth. The 3 of them went into the house. Feng Guolong was about to go back to the west room to sleep when Feng Guolong said to him, "Come here, son. Let's talk about something." The 3 of them went into the east room and sat on the calm. Feng Guolong began, "Son, Tomorrow take some meat to your maternal uncle's place. Tell your younger brother to come back. Don't let him fool around there. He only stayed home for a few days after the holiday started before running off. Feng Guolong's third brother, Feng Guoqing, had gone to their maternal Uncle Wang Tiamin's house after staying home for a few days during the summer vacation. Uncle Wang Tiamin was the head of a logging camp contractor. In this logging area, when winter production started, a lot of manpower was needed. But the logging area couldn't afford to keep so many full-time workers. So the logging area organized various log yards in each cutting area. The log yards were then contracted out to contractors, who organized people to fell trees and trim branches in the yard area and haul the timber back to the yard. The scaler would inspect and count, and the logging area would pay based on the quantity. Wang Taimin had contracted a log yard a few years ago through Feng Jiamin's connections. His life had become more comfortable since then. Since Feng Guoqing started middle school, he had been living at his maternal uncle's house. The maternal uncle's youngest son, Wang Zhongliang, was a good student. Last year, he got into high school in the county. Now that it was summer vacation, they asked Feng Guoqing to come over. He could also tutor him. She thought of her youngest son and, thinking that her nephew Wang Zhongliang was also at home, added, "Zhongliang is also at home. Ask him if he wants to come. If he does, bring him along too." Feng Guoqing nodded. "Okay, got it, Mom." Then she added, "After that, go pick up Xiuping and my eldest grandson. Also bring some meat for your father-in-law and mother-in-law." Feng Guoqing was also happy to hear that. His wife and child had been away for several days, and he did miss them a bit. Especially the child. At 4 years old, he was at that age of being mischievous and clingy. "Okay, I'll go tomorrow morning." After a pause, Feng Guoqing added, "Mom, I was thinking, since we have so much meat, I'd like to give some to our team leader. To build a good relationship." Wang Guolong was pleased that her son was thinking about important matters. She happily replied, "Why not? Give him some bear meat. And give him one of the hind paws." After saying that, she slapped her thigh. "I forgot earlier. I should have given my sister-in-law 2 bear paws. I'll send them over tomorrow morning," Wang Guolong said regretfully. At this point, Feng Jianya interjected, "That's a trivial matter. You should think about who to ask to be the matchmaker." Wang Guolong thought about it and tentatively asked, "How about asking old Mrs. Sun? Anyway, we'll need old Mr. Sun to pick an auspicious date." Feng Jianya thought for a moment and replied, "It's fine, but will your elder brother and sister-in-law be willing?" Why did Feng Jianya say that? Because old Mr. Sun and his wife were quite interesting. Old Mr. Sun had an old book passed down in his family. In the past, he used this book to read Yinyang Feng Shui and handle weddings and funerals for people. His wife, old Mrs. Sun, as they call her in the Northeast, had served in a shrine and been a spirit medium in her early years. Whenever old Mr. Sun saw something in divination, he would have his wife perform a ritual to break it. The couple worked together really well. They were quite famous. Everything was fine, and they lived well, but those years when the political winds turned against them really gave them a hard time. During the Four Olds campaign, they were considered monsters and demons. Afraid of implicating their children, they forced their children to cut ties with them. They didn't dare to contact each other. Only after the political winds shifted did they dare to reconnect. In recent years, no one is bothered with this matter anymore. Because old Mr. Sun was so famous before, people gradually started coming to him again for choosing grave sites, building houses, and picking auspicious dates. But old Mrs. Sun didn't dare to serve as a medium again. She switched to being a matchmaker. The old couple worked as a team again. Because Li Weiguo was the village chief, that's why Feng Jianya said that. Wang Guolong thought for a moment and said, "Tomorrow I'll sound out my sister-in-law and see what she says. If not, let Chiuyang go. He's familiar with both families." "Okay, that works," Feng Jianya replied. "By the way, Heir asked me to deliver some bear meat to Zhang Erbao's family tomorrow, and tell his parents that after selling the bear gall, we'll give them 20%. What do you all think?" Wang Guolong asked. Feng Jianya pondered for a moment. He asked Feng Guoqing, "Oldest, what do you think?" Feng Guoqing said, "I think Heir did the right thing. After all, Zhang Erbao didn't do it on purpose. His family is really struggling." Feng Jianya nodded and said, "Let's do it that way. Our family doesn't lack this bit of money. We've been fellow villagers for so many years. If we can help, we should." Actually, even if they didn't give Zhang Erbao's family a share of the bear gall money, no one could find fault with it, because Zhang Erbao didn't discuss it with Feng Guolong before hunting the bear, and Feng Guolong even saved his life. Now Feng Guolong is giving Zhang Erbao 20%, which is over 100 yuan. Whoever hears about it would give Feng Guolong a thumbs up. After the three of them discussed it, they cleaned up and went to sleep. Meanwhile, at the Li family's home, after Li Weiguo and his wife returned, They also soaked the bear meat in cold water, and Li Mingxin came out to help. After the three of them cleaned up, they all went into the east room. Old Mr. Li was on the Kong smoking his pipe. Lu Jinlan spoke first. Dad, let's discuss something with you. Air's mother mentioned today about Air and Mingxin's matter. What do you think? When Li Mingxin heard this, her face instantly turned red. She lowered her head and said nothing, twisting the hem of her clothes with her fingers. Old Mr. Li looked at his granddaughter and knew the answer. He said grumpily, "It's not me who's getting married, so what's the use of asking me?" Then the whole family's gaze fell on Li Mingxin. Li Mingxin kept her head down, her face bright red. She still said nothing. Lu Jinlan knew her daughter's feelings. So she teased, "Daughter, if you don't say anything, does that mean you don't agree? Then tomorrow I'll tell your aunt that you don't agree." Li Mingxin got anxious and immediately raised her head and said, "I didn't." Seeing the three of them smiling, she realized she'd fallen for it. She immediately lowered her head and stammered, I'll listen to you all." Seeing her daughter's shy look, Lu Jinlan didn't tease her anymore. "All right, then tomorrow morning I'll go tell your aunt that her second daughter-in-law agrees." Old Mr. Li and his son both laughed heartily. Li Mingxin lowered her head even more. The next morning, just as dawn was breaking, around 4 o'clock, Feng Guolong was already up. She first made a pot of fine corn grits porridge and put it on the stove to cook. Around 4:30, she threaded a string of bear meat with wire, and after thinking about it, she also threaded a few pieces of bear fat. It weighed about 7 or 8 jin in total. She carried it toward Zhang Erbao's house. Zhang Erbao's house was west of Feng Guolong's, and she had to pass 7 or 8 households. In a few minutes, Feng Guolong arrived at the gate of Zhang Erbao's yard. Zhang Erbao's mother was just coming back from the backyard carrying firewood, apparently about to cook. Feng Guolong called out to the yard, "Erbao's mom, are you up?" Seeing it was Feng Guolong, Zhang Erbao's mother quickly put the firewood under the windowsill and hurried to the wooden fence gate, opening it. She said to Feng Guolong, "Sister-in-law, you're here. Come in quickly. Last night Erbao told me about it. That darn kid, always causing trouble. I wanted to go to your house last night to apologize, but I was too embarrassed. I was afraid you might think something of it. I was just thinking I'd go over after cooking." Feng Guolong heard this and thought that Erbao's mother was reasonable, not someone who would make a fuss. So she comforted her. "The kid is still young, so don't scold him. We're all neighbors, so you don't need to take it to heart. Isn't it good that both kids are fine, and they even killed a bear?" Zhang Erbao's mother quickly agreed. Yes. Thanks to your second son is really something. If it weren't for him, Meyer Baezi might have been kicked to death by that bear." Feng Guolong, modest on the surface but proud inside, said, "What's so great about it? Don't praise him." As she spoke, she handed the bear meat to Zhang Erbao's mother and said, "This is what my second son asked me to bring. He also told me to tell you that when the bear gall is sold later, your Baezi will get a 20% share." Zhang Erbao's mother quickly waved her hands and stepped back. She said anxiously, "Sister-in-law, I can't accept this. How could we have the face to take this? I'd be content if you didn't blame us. I really can't take it." Feng Guolong saw that she wasn't pretending, so she said to her, "Sister, you know my father-in-law and the others have their rules. Even though we didn't go into the mountains, the rules still apply. It's not against the rules for you to take it." But Zhang Erbao's mother didn't agree. "Sister-in-law, rules or no rules, I'm just grateful that the 2 kids are fine." She refused very firmly. Feng Guolong was a bit troubled at this point, unable to give away the money and meat. Then she put on a serious face and said to Zhang Erbao's mother, "Sister-in-law, you don't understand this. Hunters have their rules. If you don't accept it, who will tell us about it in the future? If my second son wants to hunt something in the mountains later, others might tell him. So he won't have to wander all over the mountains." Feng Guolong's words were a bit forceful, meaning, "Don't hinder my son's future." Actually, at this time, Feng Guolong had no idea that Feng Guolong was going to drive the mountains. If Feng Guolong dared to mention it, she would beat him to death. How dangerous it is to go into the mountains. He's about to get married. Why is he showing off? Then she softened her tone and said to Zhang Erbao's mother, "Besides, this is for your Baezi from my second son. They're young brothers. They'll have to get along in the future." Hearing this, Zhang Erbao's mother was a bit troubled. Indeed, the Feng family had a much better standing in the village than their family. If the 2 boys got along well, it would be good for her son too. Seeing that Zhang Erbao's mother was wavering, Feng Guolong struck while the iron was hot and quickly stuffed the meat into her hands, saying, "Sister, just take it. When the bear gall is sold, I'll bring you the money. Just save it for Erbao to use later." Zhang Erbao's mother knew that Feng Guolong and her son were looking after them, and her eyes reddened slightly. She said with some emotion, Sister-in-law, I know you're looking after our family. Thank you. In the future, if your second son needs anything, just have him find Herbayazi. If he says no, I'll break his legs. Let the two boys get along slowly. Sister, I'll head back now. Don't worry about the bear gall money. It'll take about half a month to dry. If you need money for anything, come to me first. I'll be going then. Wang Guilong said as she walked out. Zhang Erbao's mother quickly said, No rush, no rush. Sister-in-law, come by when you have time. Go back and cook. With that, Wang Guilong got up and headed back. After Wang Guilong left, Zhang Erbao's mother carried the bear meat into the house, found a basin, put the bear meat in it, and went to the west room where Zhang Erbao was. Zhang Erbao had a rough night, having nightmares and crying out in his sleep. His parents were so worried they almost went to find old Mrs. Sunday. It got better in the middle of the night, and the couple went back to sleep. At this moment, Zhang Erbao was sleeping soundly when his mother woke him up. He asked groggily, What's wrong, Mom? Zhang Erbao's mother said to him, Son, get up and wash your face. I'll fix some food, and you eat. After you eat, leave early and get your second brother back sooner. Zhang Erbao was even more confused. Mom, who's my second brother? Do you have another child outside? His mother angrily slapped him on the head and scolded. I'll teach you to talk nonsense. Feng Air, your second brother. You're the same age, but his birthday is earlier. Zhang Erbao finally understood. He acknowledged and quickly got up to get dressed. His mother added, Your Aunt Feng came by earlier and said you'll get 20% of the bear gall. Their family is nice. From now on, when you see them, greet them, and be helpful with any work. Zhang Erbao replied, Okay, got it, Mom. Then he got up and started getting ready.